Hey everybody, Evan from I Quit My Band here, back in the reaction zone with another installment of the IQMB Film Club. Enough people seem to dig my PTA ranking video, and there's a couple movies in theaters that I wanted to check out, so I figured why don't I review them IQMB style. First movie that I'm reviewing is Roofman. Roofman is a new movie from Derek Cianfrance starring Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst. It tells the true story of Jefferey Manchester, a former soldier who goes to jail for robbing a string of McDonalds only to escape jail and evade capture by living in a Toys R Us for 6 months. When I first heard about this movie, I had absolutely zero interest in seeing it. The poster looked very stupid. The trailer made it seem like it was going to be like this annoying, quirky, offbeat comedy. Like, just judging from the trailer, it seemed like the entire movie was about Channing Tatum playing pranks on Peter Dinklage. So I was kind of shocked to find out that Derek Cianfrance directed this movie, and it made me a lot more interested in seeing it. Blue Valentine and Place Beyond the Pines are like stone cold classics in my opinion. The sad fact of it is I'd like to think of myself as Ride the Lightning, Place Beyond the Pines, Ryan Gosling, but in reality, I'm more bald eagle t-shirt, balding Blue Valentine, Ryan Gosling. So is Roofman another certified dudes rock classic from Derek Cianfrance? No, but it is a very enjoyable movie. This is by far his most mainstream film. The storytelling and tone is a lot broader and lighter than his previous films. We are not staring into the dark heart of man on this one as much as we are staring into the employee break room of a defunct toy franchise. But I think Cianfrance's talent as like a writer and director are able to inject enough drama and stakes to save this from what could have been just like a lighthearted romp. The first half of the movie is especially good, and I think where his talents shine the most, it's very much a crime movie in the first half. Like, we see him robbing McDonald's, breaking out of jail, setting up shop at the Toys R Us. All that shit is great. Our main character is sort of a brain genius. He's described as being able to see details that other people can't see, which sets up some really good process stuff, and that is among my favorite things to see in film. These movies where you just watch a guy who's really good at something, and the movies that can make that feel cinematic, I love, and I feel like the first half of Roofman does that really well. Just give me some insert shots of a guy's hands while he's breaking into a safe or something, and I will love your movie. The second half of Roofman, where it becomes more of a romantic comedy, I still enjoyed, but I did have some problems with the pacing of it. The first part of the film flies by. We're getting all these like really great scenes of tension and high stakes. And then in the second half, we're just kind of like hanging out in North Carolina, picking up chicks at church spaghetti dinners and teaching their daughters how to drive. It's still engaging, and the chemistry between Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst is pretty solid, but just the way it's paced and the tone of that section, it feels a bit lighter and disconnected from the first part of the movie. Channing Tatum is solid in the lead role. He's not an actor that I ever really seek out, but the things that I end up seeing him in, I am charmed by him. I do find his on-screen persona a bit golden retriever-like, if you will. Maybe not a whole lot going on upstairs, but he's energetic. He's happy to be there. I remember seeing the movie poster for that movie he made, Dog, and being like, it should be called Dogs, because there's 2 dogs on that truck. I think his on-screen persona mostly works for portraying this character who is like a thief with a heart of gold. But I do think that his charisma kind of stops you from really feeling like you know this guy in any real way. The film seems pretty uninterested in like probing the psychology of this character, and the motivations we get for his actions are pretty surface level. Like, we get one scene at the beginning where he's upset that he can't afford a bike for his daughter's birthday, and then by the next scene, he has already robbed 45 McDonald's. And I think Channing Tatum's charisma is enough to keep you interested in the character despite the lack of depth, but there is part of me that thinks that it could have probably been stronger with an actor that can project a bit more interiority or depth. Kirsten Dunst is also really good. The movie really puts like the emotional weight on her shoulders in the back half, and she is able to carry it to the finish line. Her character is probably the most three-dimensional in the movie. They flesh her out a bit more, even more than the lead, and that really pays off in the finale. There's some really good like pinch hitter performances in here. Peter Dinklage plays a great dick. Watching the trailer, I was worried he was going to be like a sitcom level dickhead boss. But having spent my high school years working at a big box retailer, he really hits some of the nuances of an adult man who has sold their soul to a dying brick and mortar franchise. Lakeith Stanfield has a really small role, but he shows up just to remind you how like charismatic and cold-blooded he can be. I'm not sure if it makes sense how menacing his character is, but he is the best part of any time that he's on screen. And Ben Mendelsohn is fantastic as like this local pastor who dresses like Jimmy Buffett. Sion Franz always gets the best out of Mendelsohn. That character he plays in Place Beyond the Pines, the like hillbilly failing engine repair guy, easily his best role. And one of the things that Sion Franz does that I love is he's really good at capturing like this wounded Americana. Like in Blue Valentine, those like disgusting Love Shack motels, and then like the anonymous doctor's office that Michelle Williams works at. And in Place Beyond the Pines, you have like that traveling carnival and then the small town banks. And then in this movie that takes place in like strip malls, in church rec rooms, and like a Red Lobster. There's a lot of movies now that are using like really garish production design that's like super stylized. Everything looks fake. Everybody lives in like a $2 million house. But his movies take place in like the grubby, ugly America I recognize. Overall, I think it's worth seeing. I think if like you're a Sion Franz hog, there's enough hallmarks of his work to make you happy. And then if you're just looking for like a decent little crime movie with some laughs, some romance, some drama, it'll get the job done. I'm feeling a 7.2 out of 10. A Channing Tatum is a good boy, hell yeah. Our next movie to review is The Smashing Machine, which is pretty cool. They made a movie about your mother. The Smashing Machine is a new film from Benny Safdie, one half of the Safdie brothers, who brought us Uncut Gems, Good Time, and Heaven Knows What. It stars former Intercontinental Champion Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Emily Blunt, as well as MMA veterans Ryan the Master Bader, and the creator of the greatest self-defense instructional of all time, Boss Rutan.
Somebody's telling me that about my wife. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm going to break your leg.
It is a reimagining of sorts of the 2002 documentary, The Smashing Machine, which tells the story of MMA pioneer Mark Kerr as he struggles with personal demons and addiction at the height of his MMA career. Now, when this movie was announced, I wasn't sure if it was real or if it had risen directly from my subconscious, because I can't imagine a film more perfectly aligned with my interests. I'm a film bro, MMA nerd, jiu-jitsu instructor who spent his communion money on the Nation of Domination action figures. It seems like a lot of people have never seen or heard of the original documentary, but as a guy who started doing jiu-jitsu in the mid-2000s, that thing was like our endless summer. When you started jiu-jitsu in the 2000s, you were issued a pair of Sprawl board shorts and a Daily Motion link to watch The Smashing Machine in 480p. And now you're telling me that one of the guys that made Uncut Gems is making a film based on this cult documentary I've been obsessed with since the moment I saw it, starring the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, and he has to somehow get more jacked to play the main character. I mean, there was just no possible way that I was going to walk out of this film and not love it. And yet, I did. I did not enjoy this movie. Let's start with the good. The Rock is pretty good in the lead role. He does a good job of capturing Mark Kerr's like soft-spoken, gentle giant quality. And then when he has to dial up the emotions and aggressions, he mostly gets there. Some are calling it an Oscar-worthy performance. I don't think so. I mean, maybe Oscar Mayer, the way my dude had to beef up. I think most people are just excited that The Rock is making a movie where he's no longer like punching buildings and now he's at least punching other human beings. It's a good performance, but there's still a lot of it when you're watching it. You're like, yeah, that's The Rock in a wig. Emily Blunt is also very good as Dawn, Mark Kerr's girlfriend. She doesn't have a ton to do, but I think she makes the most out of it. I think Emily Blunt is a great actress, but she's been like severely underserved by her last few roles. Between this and Oppenheimer, she has played like the stereotypical nagging love interest to the hyper-focused career man. I think the best performance, hands down, is Boss Rutan playing himself. He's playing a version of himself that is 25 years younger than he is now, but you wouldn't be able to tell because the man is literally ageless and he has more natural charisma than anyone else in the movie.
Don't you ever do this.
Now for the bad. Mainly, it's just kind of boring. Like, the most shocking thing about this movie to me was how tensionless it felt. Even in the climactic final fight scene, it feels like the movie never gets out of second gear. And I don't think that it's just because I'm familiar with the story and the beats. It has much more to do with how the story is told. The film has this like really meandering tone with a lot of the fight scenes being scored by this like airy, free-form jazz, and the camera work is all like fly-on-the-wall docudrama stuff. And the result, it takes like all of this stuff that should be genuinely exciting, like no holds barred fighting, and it all just kind of feels a little stagey and a little bloodless. Like, this is one of the guys that made Uncut Gems. He was able to make betting on the Jets feel like a life and death proposition. And in this movie, he makes like no holds barred cage fighting feel anemic. It's also very reverent to the documentary, following the story pretty much beat for beat, and even at times recreating entire scenes word for word. And I could see that working if Safdie made like some stronger formal choices or like stylized it a bit, but he ends up shooting the film like a documentary. Like these scenes in the documentary, like of Kerr shooting up or him pressuring his doctor to prescribe stronger pain medication. In the documentary, they're gripping because they're real. You're watching this happen, this like elite athlete whose life is falling apart. And then to try to recreate them with like the same camera angles with the same lines, it just feels like they fall flat. I also don't think that Mark Coleman's character in the movie works very well. I think Ryan Bader does a decent job of playing Mark Coleman, especially for a non-professional actor. But I do find that the way that the character is written is pretty strange. Mark Coleman is a huge part of the Smashing Machine documentary, and we spend a lot of time with him to get a greater sense of like who he is, where he's at with his career. Mark Coleman is at a low point in his career. Mark Kerr is at a high point in his career. So when the finale of the documentary happens, it's like this shocking thing, and it has this big emotional impact. But Mark Coleman in this movie exists like solely to talk about Mark Kerr. Like, he has no character outside of guy who knows Mark Kerr. Like, there are multiple scenes where he's being interviewed before his fights, and the only things that the reporters ask him about are, what do you think about Mark Kerr? Dwayne Johnson is a producer on the movie, and that almost feels like a Homer Simpson talking about Poochie level note that he could have given.
2. Whenever
Mark Kerr.
it's not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's
Mark Kerr? And because we never really get to know much about Mark Coleman outside of his relationship with Mark Kerr, the finale feels kind of flat. An obvious comparison to make with this film is The Wrestler, another film shot on 16mm about a guy who abuses himself in a ring for a living, featuring an actor taking a pharmacy worth of steroids as they gun for an Oscar. The difference is that The Wrestler feels like raw, real, and dramatic, and this feels kind of like stiff, slow, and like kind of dramaless. Overall, I was really disappointed by this. I walked into the movie wanting to love it, would have accepted being mildly entertained by it, and it almost doesn't reach that. Some of my reaction may be like my closeness to the material and my like enjoyment of the documentary, but I actually think that may have helped because I saw it with 2 other people who had never seen the documentary, knew nothing about Mark Kerr, and they liked it even less than I did. Overall, I'm feeling a flat 5.0. In Oscar, more like Oscar Mayer, yeah, whatever. What did you think? Have you seen Roofman? Have you seen The Smashing Machine? What did you think? Did you agree with me? Do you think I'm an idiot? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Evan from I Quit My Band. We'll see you next time.